Hello everyone and welcome to the Reddit Railway. My name is Victor and I'll be your driver. Today's destination is r/relationships, so all aboard! I should start by saying that my daughter is an only child. She has always been our princess, so to speak, and she's received everything material that a girl could ask for. Before you criticize my husband, her father and I for spoiling her, we do realize that we shouldn't have given her everything from a young age, but we didn't know any better back then, and we had the money, we're quite well off, so we figured why not support our only child. My husband owns his own business and I'm a school teacher. Together we make decent money, and I'm looking to retire in the near future. When we first started out, I stayed at home and my husband worked an office job, and so my daughter has been pampered with all my attention and her father's support. She is now going to be married for the third time in her short life. Her only job is occasionally supply teaching in the same school board I work at, so she doesn't have much of a big career yet, but I do hope she will find work. I'll spare you the long of it. She married her high school boyfriend at 22 years old, and they divorced less than 2 years later in a bitter fight. The wedding was lavish as it was her first, and we truly believed that they would make it work. I guess my husband and I also saw through rose-colored glasses, since we were married very young as well and are approaching our 35th anniversary. My husband and I pitched in around $25,000 for the wedding ceremony and reception, and perhaps another $3,000 for their honeymoon to Europe. The second time she was proposed to by another man she was dating. He was a hard-working blue-collar man, but his family didn't have much money. Again, she asked if we could help out with her wedding, that it was true love this time around. We met the man and he was a stand-up, wholesome person, and so, a year after that, my daughter, then 27, was married to this second husband. We paid for most of the wedding costs and the honeymoon to the tune of $43,000. Her then husband's mother was a nurse and his father was a deadbeat. They didn't provide much when it came to the wedding itself, and I admit my husband and I did harbor ill will towards the fact that her husband's father's name was clearly printed on the reception and invitations as a generously contributing member to the wedding party, but that's another story. And they divorced because of money issues less than 3 years later. We, tired by this point, forked over money for her divorce costs and tried to regroup our finances. We do have a comfortable nest egg saved up for our post-retired life, but now my daughter, who has begun dating another man, has excitedly showed us that she is engaged once again. The man in question proposed less than a year into their dating, and she is elated more than anything, because after her second divorce, she didn't think any man would want her. My daughter has hinted at wedding costs and brings home bridal magazines and ideas for cakes, dresses and venues, and I want to be happy for her happiness, but there's a voice inside me that's screaming, enough! We have spent over $140,000 of our money for my daughter's 2 failed marriages, wedding, reception, honeymoon costs, divorce costs, and I cannot believe she is thinking of planning another lavish ceremony at our expense. I've tried suggesting that maybe this time she should opt for a small backyard ceremony, but she turns it around on us and says that we don't believe in her happiness and that we are being cheap. I am at a loss of what to say to her. OP, listen to that voice telling you enough, because you have done enough. If anything, you've done too much. And I don't just mean with the money. As you said, you spoiled her rotten, and it clearly shows. Stop enabling her. Tell her outright you won't support her anymore. It's about time she learned the meaning of the word no. Maybe you could use the money you saved to place bets on how long it'll be before she leaves her newest Prince Charming. We'll now jump into the update to see if that did actually happen. Long story short, my daughter is getting her third divorce. We are no longer on speaking terms and she has broken our hearts. Short story long, as many of you predicted, she threw a great big tantrum when her father and I told her explicitly that we would not be paying for the wedding this time around. We said we would buy her a wedding dress and the cake, but that would be the end of it. That whatever else she wanted would have to come from her and her husband's pocketbook. She said we don't care for her happiness. She cried, she said that we were selfish, everything all of you said was going to happen. All these things hurt so much to hear because they aren't true. We do care very much for her, but enough was simply enough. She went so far as to chuck her wedding planning binder into the backyard pool, which was grotesque to watch. We asked to meet the fiancé in question over dinner. What a gem he was. He looked like trailer trash. When we asked what his occupation was, he said he was a sound technician, which made me feel bad for being so prejudiced, but after a quick conversation at the dinner table, where he behaved in the most disgusting manner, turns out he is a freelance DJ. At 39 years old, I believe one should at least be put together, not living with other roommates and working at clubs on weekends. My daughter, I do not know what was wrong with her. She looked at him with such adoring eyes, as if he were the best thing since sliced bread. We doubt that he could provide for himself, let alone a family. I don't know if this was a sign, but the sight of this man-boy solidified our decision to not finance a drop of our daughter's third wedding. We still agreed to pay for the cake and the dress, but no more. We even had doubts that maybe this thug was only planning to marry our daughter for the money. We assumed it was true when we found out she had been paying for a few months' worth of his rent out of her own pocket. Like I said, I don't know what was wrong with her. We gave her a budget of $13,000 for a beautiful dress and maybe another $2,000 for the cake. The wedding planning itself was a disaster, as my daughter had a meltdown over every single little thing that went wrong, even though we tried to tell her that she could use the $15,000 budget to plan the entire wedding instead of just spending it on the dress and cake alone. That was our intention. Maybe she could scale back the dress and cake for a more humble affair. Maybe it would teach her the value of $1. She would not budge. She did not invite us to the wedding, let alone the reception. We don't even know how it was, as we were not shown any photographs afterwards. I spent the entire week crying when I found out she had left us out of the wedding party. She came back a few times with a U-Haul and her disgusting husband to take her possessions from our home and moved in with him. While my husband and I were gone on a vacation to New Orleans right before Christmas, we had received several voicemails from our daughter. Her voice was slurring, as if she had been heavily drinking or on drugs. She said that she was going to divorce him as he was a fucking deadbeat who couldn't even treat her to a nice dinner. She said she'd had to sell her engagement ring to pay the rent, that she is still living with his roommates. She also said, and this is the part that just sends me into anger, that only if we had paid for her wedding and helped her buy a home with him that she would have made this marriage last. If only we had given her more money. I would like to point out the whole home thing was never discussed between us. I do not know where she got this idea from. My God, what have we done? I am shaking with anger just typing this. My husband wanted to leave her a seething voicemail. I talked him out of it. As far as we know, she has moved forward with the divorce. We will be there for her. We will take her back into our home, but only if she wishes. At this point, we have heard nothing from her, and she does not pick up her phone. It is so easy to blame ourselves for being bad parents, and I just feel so awful. She is our only child, and if any of our nieces or nephews behaved this way to our siblings, we would have cut them out of the family in a second. But we can't. She is our only child, now 31 years old and a thrice divorcee. It pains me so much what has happened over the last year. I feel like I've lost a daughter. Go with the feeling, OP. You've lost her. I say let her stay lost. Don't let her move back in with you. She'll make your lives miserable and you'll never get rid of her. If you absolutely must help her, get her a therapist. Sounds like she needs it. And maybe consider one for yourself. It's clear you regret your choices, and maybe therapy can help you move on. Best of luck, OP. Anyway, we've come to the end of our journey. Thank you for traveling on the Reddit Railway, and thank you very much for 7,000 subscribers. We hope to see you again soon.